have filled out that registration part 2 survey, I'll make sure to get that in the mail for you by Tuesday. But if you have not done that registration part 2 survey, then I'm not going to be able to send it out to you until you do that survey, because it asks some things such as, for example, your t-shirt size that we need in order to be able to send you that care package. So make sure that you are doing that registration part 2.
So these are some of the agenda items that we're going to go over during this presentation. We're going to introduce ourselves, Guatemala, this year's cohort, go over some the graduate credits and how they're to be achieved, safety and health, culture shock, a little bit about that, some frequently asked questions. We're going to briefly just highlight the calendar, but not spend too much time with it. You can spend time with it later. The school shadowing that you're all going to be doing, and some reading and viewing recommendations, some movies that you can stream on Netflix and such, as well as any questions that you have that you've written to us through the Spanish4Educators website or email address. So we are really rooted in our mission, and that is basically that not only will you become competent in Spanish if you aren't already, but you're going to increase your fluency, but also culturally competent, so you can take that information and what you learn and become more comfortable with back to your students or your schools and the Hispanic communities that you operate in. It's a really rich experience, as well as the cohort itself, just being able to operate in that and maybe even make a few lifelong friends. We've had that happen before. So.
And as far as the linguistic piece, that's one reason why the cultural immersion and competence is so huge, is because realistically, with 2 weeks in Guatemala, it's not something where if you, because I know that we have quite a few people this year who are in like the partially proficient to kind of unsatisfactory / no Spanish range. And so keep in mind that 2 weeks is kind of dipping your toes in the water, and you'll definitely make some major strides. But if you have absolutely no prior Spanish knowledge, then it's not like you're necessarily gonna emerge totally proficient and fluent. So
no, but you will make great strides. I've seen it, and it's surprising and amazing.
Yes, totally. Totally. A little bit about Spanish4Educators. So in 1997 was my first trip to Guatemala. So essentially that's kind of when Spanish4Educators was born. And then in 1999, an organization that I've also been involved with named Global Visionaries was established, and I have had the opportunity to travel along with that organization several times to Guatemala. And that organization works primarily with students and not with adults. And so my capacity with that organization was more as kind of an adult leader for a group of high school students. And then there was an organization that I created in 2004 called SpanishMedical.com. And that was, as the name indicates, more for medical professionals and medical students and pre-health students. And then more recently, over the past, like it indicates, like, what, 9 years, or I guess that would be 12 years. I've been traveling with Global Visionaries, a couple times with Spanish Medical, and then for the last 4 years, I think it was, with Spanish4Educators. So yeah, I forgot to put that on the bullet points, but so yeah, we had a large group of 23, which was our first group with Spanish4Educators in 2014 from a district in Fort Collins, Colorado. And so every subsequent year since then, so this will be, I believe, our fourth subsequent year since then, that we've had a group anywhere from, like 8 until about 20 people that have gone to Guatemala with us.
So, and me, I'm Tiffany Higgins. That's the person whose voice you've heard and you saw at the very beginning. This is my third time going to Guatemala with Steve's groups, and I have a pretty strong background in both teaching and facilitating. And you can read it. I have love this trip, which is why I'm doing it again. And I'm looking forward to not only learning with you all, but adventuring into this newness, and hopefully being able to mediate any issues, problems, or discomforts that may come up or not during our trip.
So I am Steve Foster, 7th grade social studies teacher in Denver Public Schools, and it's my 8th year of teaching. And like was previously indicated, 4th year, although this year I'm going to be more behind the scenes. I'm not actually going to be traveling along with the cohort. That's going to be Tiffany, as well as another woman by the name of Karen Immersion, who's great. We'll get into her here subsequently. But yeah, so my background is with, first of all, secondary social studies is what I teach and what I'm licensed in. And like I previously mentioned, as far as the specialized immersion programs, not only on the medical side, but with educators. And then a little bit more about my background with those last 2 bullets. And my family, as you can see.
And Karen's not able to be with us today. She's probably listening in now. Well, the first thing you need to know is that while it's her first trip with us, with Spanish4Educators, I have known Karen for about 7 years and co-facilitated with her, as well as facilitated similar programs. She comes with a wealth of experience over 35 years, and in both international programs as well as ones that take place in the United States. She's teaching at Western State. She's teaching beginner Spanish. So we are going to have a lot of fun together. And as you can see, just based on her bio, she has got her fingers in so many different pies. She's a very interesting and wonderful person.
And not only that, but she's going to be the contact, which we'll get into in just a sec, as far as the graduate credits. She's going to be the instructor of record, which is great. We have offered graduate credits in the past, but never with somebody who actually is able to go along on the trip and be involved in that way. So super lucky to be able to have Karen. And then the operations person that's going to be helping us out and supporting us in Guatemala is Blanca. Again, super lucky to have Blanca. She's great. She's amazing. She's got a wealth of experience. And I would encourage you, if you are watching this, whether it's live or recorded, to be able to test your Spanish skills, to be able to go through. I do have it in English in just a sec, but to go through and see if you can make out some of the different Spanish that she has written down as far as kind of her professional history. So feel free to do that now. If not, here is the English side of things. So as you can see, she's not only worked as a host mother for Spanish students coming from countries all around the world, but also as a Spanish teacher, as a Spanish school coordinator, and then also as a group leader. So that bottom bullet point there, you can see that not only with us, but also with a group out of Quebec, Canada, she's done the coordination of volunteer work, Spanish classes, cultural activities, the tourist excursions side of things. So really, really lucky to have Blanca, and I think that when you meet her, you'll agree.
So one thing that you should know about where you're going is Guatemala is known as the heart of the Mayan world. And you'll see it as soon as you get there. It's very different than other Latino countries like Mexico and things like that. In terms of the people tend to be pretty conservative. But also Guatemala City, which we're going to fly into, is built on ruins. And Tikal, if you end up going there, is just known as a Mecca. It was a major commerce area for the Mayan culture and people. So. Yeah,
and unfortunately, as a history teacher, I kind of have a little bit more insight into this, but I'm sure a lot of people may also be aware. So the Spanish conquistadors arrived in 1525 into Guatemala. And so that was a really big kind of influence in a negative way on the Mayan civilization, more than anything, because of the diseases that they brought with them. And so that was a big turning point on the history of Guatemala. And then as you can see in 1821,